Way back in the 20th century, a 16mm projector in the classroom meant a fun movie day instead of a boring teacher lecture. The films told students the correct way to do things. But what if the kids learned a different cinematic lesson? Were these health films educating students about good and bad behavior, or teaching them a good way to be bad? Was there a dark and dangerous side to health films? I'm Doug McMillan of the Connells. Join me for Danger Health Films. Tonight we learned whether health films warned us about the dangers of a bad attitude at work or gave us bad career advice. You and Your Work reminds us that a guidance counselor can lead us onto the path to become the next Al Bundy.
Hello, Barlow speaking. Yes. Someone to work part-time? Why, yes, I'll send someone down to see you. Someone who'll do the caliber of work you expect. Goodbye. Work. There's a word that's used much more than it's understood.
Work is a four-letter word, and the least exciting one.
As counselor here at our school, I get to hear and see a great deal about work and what it means. Good work, fair work, poor work. I'd like to tell you about a certain student who was here about 5 years ago. His experience has important meaning for you. When Frank Taylor started in his first real job, he had only a vague idea about work, his responsibility to his employers, and to himself. But suppose we let Frank tell his own story.
It all started with a sign in the window of Canfield Shoe Store. Sounded good, a chance to earn money for some of the things I wanted. So I talked to Mr. Canfield. We got along all right and, well, I got the job. It wasn't bad for a week or so, but then I began to get bored.
The shoe business is better if you have a foot fetish.
It was just put shoes away. And then the pay I got. Huh. That wouldn't buy many of those things I wanted. The shoe business was no good. Boy, some of those people really made me sick. I didn't last very long. But then it was only a job. I figured I could get another job through the school guidance counselor.
Time to fill out that resume to be an astronaut.
I think I have a job you should be able to fill.
That's great, Mr. Barlow.
The job I have in mind is at Mr. Canfield's shoe store.
It's the Groundhog Day guidance counselor.
I don't think Mr. Canfield would hire me.
Why not?
Because he just fired me. Haven't you got a different job maybe somewhere?
Just a minute, Frank. If Mr. Canfield fired you, you might have the same sort of trouble somewhere else. Would you like to tell me about the job and what happened?
The job was just dull and routine. The same things every day.
I don't think there is such a thing as a dull job.
There's no such thing as a dull job to Mr. Excitement, the guidance counselor.
But suppose you tell me what you think is interesting work.
I think it would be exciting to be an architect or an airplane pilot.
Yes, those can be interesting jobs. Or they can be dull and routine, too, depending on your mental attitude. Why do you suppose an architect finds interest in his work?
Because he does something important. Designs houses and buildings and bridges and lots of things.
Yes, an architect does help to make things that people need. And he can look with pride on the completed structure. And the pilot provides transportation that people need. He can be proud of his skill and his record of safe flying. But what about, a teacher? Can't she be proud of her service to the community? Are druggists important? Or bank clerks? Or shoe salesmen? Don't they do something useful, something important for people?
Look, Mr. Barlow, I didn't take that job to do anything important. I just wanted a little spending money.
Any job, piloting a plane or selling shoes, is as important as you make it. If you think it's not important, whatever it is, you'll soon become bored with it and do it poorly.
Being an airline pilot when one could smoke, drink highballs, and molest the stewardesses in the cockpit is as dull as a shoe salesman.
To enjoy your work, you'll need to find in it more than money. You'll need personal satisfaction, pride of accomplishment, a sense of importance to others. Whether it's a part-time job after school or a lifetime career.
Aim low at underachiever tech.
And as for money, well, we all want money. But if you don't perform any service, or if you don't do your work well, you can't expect much in return, can you?
How did a guidance counselor get such a huge office?
Why, guess not.
I bet this guy embezzles.
If your work is to profit you, it must also profit your employer and profit society.
This work sounds like a pyramid scheme.
But how can you do a job well if it isn't interesting?
It wouldn't be much of a job if you couldn't find something interesting about it. All right, now let's see what other job we can find for you.
Or, Mr. Barlow, do you think Mr. Canfield would take me back if you asked him to?
He broke this kid's will to live in record time. Is he a guidance counselor or a torture artist?
Well, after Mr. Barlow talked Mr. Canfield into giving me another trial,
Back to smelling feet for a living.
I found new interest in that job. And when I really applied myself to my work, there was nothing dull or routine about it.
Perhaps he learned how to dip into the cash register.
It wasn't long before I began to see how much other people depended on fellows like me. Mr. Canfield was willing to give me more responsibility and more pay. It was no longer just a job. Because I had found interest in my work, naturally I did better work. I became more valuable to Mr. Canfield and to his customers, and of course, to myself.
That was 5 years ago. The reason I told you about Frank Taylor is that he called me just now. He needs a part-time helper.
He wants to keep another graduate from being an airline pilot.
You see, he's manager of Canfield Shoe Store now. It happened to Frank because he found interest in his work and satisfaction in doing it to the best of his ability. Every day, someone, somewhere, learns that more money and more satisfaction are the result when you stop thinking about just the job and begin thinking about work.
You and your work makes a case that smelling feet for a living is as dull as being an international jet pilot. Who can argue with that? The Grapevine is a warning about the dangers of office gossip, although Nancy in accounting heard differently.
Hey, Alice, have you heard this? Something really big is brewing. No, what is it? Nell's out, or at least some part of the company. What do you think of that?
That's silly, Helen. What makes you want to sell out?
Well, I don't know. But Nell said when she was in his office, she overheard him talking about it.
Do you think there's really anything to it?
Well, Nell says she heard Mr. Cowdery say that the Perkins Company plant in Cleveland can handle the entire load. You can figure it out from there. Everybody's talking about it.
Cleveland? It has to be serious to involve Cleveland.
Gee, I hope not. Oh, this Mr. Stone. I'll see you, Helen.
Okay, so long.
Cordially yours. That'll be all for now, Alice.
Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone.
Yes?
Well, I was wondering if you could tell me if it's... Well, you see, my husband works here in town, and we just bought a new house, so... Well, I'd hate to have to move or look for another job or anything, and...
What are you trying to say, Alice?
Well, you see, everybody's talking about Perkins Company taking us over, maybe moving us all to Cleveland. I was just wondering if you could tell me if it's true, because if it is...
What? Well, I'll be... How do rumors like that get started? Look, Alice, who told you that?
Don't be the office narc.
Well, it's kind of all over the office, Mr. Stone.
Well, you and the rest of the girls can forget it. There's nothing to it. Why is it people are always interested in things that are none of their business? First thing you know, the darndest rumors get started like this one. Look, Alice, will you please take my advice and not repeat any of these silly stories?
It's always a silly story until you wake up in Cleveland.
Yes, Mr. Stone.
The Grapevine.
Yeah, the old Grapevine.
Grapevine? More like a prune pit around him.
Something simple happens, it's misinterpreted. A story starts and grows and grows. For instance, 2 weeks later.
Oh, Alice, if you will wait just a moment, you can take these reports up to Mr. Cowdery.
Yes.
Well, look, Mr. Stone, I'll be running along. Don't worry, we'll get your new computer and those file cabinets in early next week.
Good. Now that we're getting rid of those 2 desks out there, I guess we'll have room for them. Oh, yes. What about the expert operator?
Oh, I've taken care of that. We're sending you our very best girl.
Good. All right. Here you are, Alice. If you'll just give these reports to Mr. Cowdery's secretary, please.
Yes, Mr. Stone.
That's the look of an employee told to prepare her neck for an axe.
Now, I'm planning on keeping your expert operator here long enough to train both Helen and Sally. They're 2 of my best girls. That way, both girls will be trained on the new machine, and we'll be able to get out a lot more work with less effort.
Well, I can guarantee you this, Mr. Stone. You're going to like it. And the girls will be happy with it, too, after they've learned how to use it.
I'm sure of it. Within a week, both my girls will be old hands at it.
So he's not going to fire them? This movie is like Usual Suspects.
Just a normal business improvement. Stone, head of accounting, is getting a new type of computer to make his department more efficient. A simple improvement in methods. Simple, that is, until the office grapevine gets a hold of it.
Is this a film about how bosses can hide secrets from employees better?
I hear they've already ordered one. Yes, Helen and Sally. Moving them?
Transfer?
Laid off?
Fired?
Without notice? Just like that? What did they do?
This is what we did before instant messaging.
Well, the least he could have done was tell us first.
Well, that's only what I heard, Helen. Maybe the thing for you to do is go right in and ask him about it. After all, you're not sure.
Well, you're his secretary, Alice. Why don't you ask him?
I wouldn't ask him. I told you how he acts when anybody asks him anything about anything that goes on around here.
Well, where there's smoke, there's fire. If they're moving our desks out and getting a new automatic machine, they must be getting rid of us, too.
Well, that's the thanks you get. 4 years at the same desk working your head off, and then in comes a newfangled machine, and out you go.
Well, I think we ought to quit before he has a chance to fire us. There's plenty of other good jobs around here.
Maybe she can work in a shoe store.
I don't know what you're going to do, Sally, but I'm leaving early today to find me another job. And it's really a swell job. And if you'll come down...
Good morning,
you
girls.
already...
Oh, Helen, will you and Sally come in for just a minute, please? I've got some news for you.
We've got the news for him, too.
Well, I guess this is it.
Welcome to Rat's Dessert, a sinking ship theater.
Oh, come on in and sit down, girls. I've got something I want to talk to you about.
It's all right. You don't have to tell us. We know. And it may interest you to know that we don't care. This is the thanks you get for years of hard work. Maybe we don't want to work for you. As a matter of fact, I already have another job. I start Monday.
Wait a minute. Another job? What on earth are you talking about?
And I've got an interview set up for Sally, too.
What in the name of heaven are you talking about?
You needn't pretend, Mr. Stone. We've heard all about it already. The whole office has. You think just because you buy a new automatic machine, you can let us go and get an experienced operator for it. Well, let me tell you...
Let you go?
Before UFC, we had bosses versus secretaries.
Oh, for Pete's sake. If this wasn't so serious, it'd be ridiculous. Look, I'm buying a new computer to take the place of those 2 old adding machines out there. And they always send along an experienced operator to break someone in on it. Now, I thought you'd be much happier with the new setup.
Golly, Mr. Stone, we thought that...
You thought? Well, why didn't you come into me in the first place instead of listening to all this silly backyard gossip?
Well, I heard that whenever anyone comes into you about something, you say it doesn't concern them.
Look, girl, it isn't always possible to tell you everything that management has in mind. You can understand that. But I'll certainly tell you about anything that concerns you directly. In fact, that's why I called you in here, to tell you about this change before the equipment arrived.
Oh, golly, Mr. Stone, we thought we were going to lose our jobs.
Well, I'm sorry, girls, if you got concerned and upset over nothing. But how in the devil can I keep these rumors from getting started?
The best way is to convert the lunchroom into the computer room and fire all the secretaries. Computers don't need a coffee break, although they will protest relocating to Cleveland. We wrap up our night with a slippery tale called Down and Out.
One of the most common causes of injuries in work situations is falling. Falls are second only to auto accidents in number of fatalities. People seem to have the idea of fall, they'll be able to get up and walk away. It doesn't work that way.
He can pull off a jumpsuit when he's vertical, horizontal, or in between.
Falls can bring the lifelong miseries and limitations of a chronic bad back, or the daily discomfort and insecurity of a trick knee, or the end of wage-earning days.
Is this employee clumsy, incompetent, or addicted to filing workman's comp claims?
When a person slips, the feet simply slide out from under it.
After a week, they just call him Trip.
Often, as a result, the unsupported body comes crashing down. Feet can skid easily and unexpectedly in any direction on many kinds of slimy, oily, or greasy materials that can change a good surface into a dangerous one.
He's the only guy working in this place, and it's all his fault that he's tripping over his food and tools.
A very small spot can do the damage. Even if there's no actual fall, a badly wrenched back may be the result.
This company makes painkillers.
Sometimes the feet go out from under the body because a surface moves out from under them. Carrying something can greatly increase the risk of falling. A new balance factor is added.
Why does the company keep around such a messy worker? Nepotism?
An uneven place in the floor. A loose tile. A protruding steel band. A small item that shouldn't be there will do the trick. And if vision is blocked by the load being carried, a fall is practically guaranteed. A natural reflex attempt to reach out for something to hold on to can sometimes only make things worse.
That's a bad company cafeteria.
Height is another complicating factor, greatly increasing the seriousness of a fall. But a fracture from falling only one step can take as long to heal as any other.
I saw this guy get beat up by Starsky and Hutch.
An object doesn't have to be very big or very high to cause serious trouble on stair steps.
He might be drinking on the job.
A foot may be placed on a small or irregular surface where it can slip. It may look like a shortcut to jump down. That's often a shortcut to the hospital. Shortcuts that look logical often wind up in dead ends. Trying to get across that last gap in a shortcut
That's some World Cup class knee clutching.
may put a man out of work for several weeks. A person moving backwards who catches his heels at the edge of a platform can be thrown over so fast his head hits first.
These are great ways to injure that annoying guy in the warehouse.
Ladders combine height and balance. They can produce heart-stopping scares when they move just slightly, and bone-fracturing falls when they move enough. The 4-to-1 angle is always the safe position for setting up a ladder. The rule is, set a straight ladder 1/4 as far as the height of its support point. It's particularly important to secure ladders that are leaned against cylindrical or irregular surfaces, or set on uneven surfaces. But no matter how the ladder is set, any heavy pushing or pulling up there can lead to a painful fall. It always takes 2 hands to go up or down a ladder safely. Heavy or clumsy material should never be hand-carried up a ladder. Sure, moving a high ladder is an effort, but it is far healthier than overreaching and risking a permanent injury.
If you see employees not using the ladder right, stand back and prepare to laugh.
Always remember to keep your belt buckle inside the rails of the ladder you're working on, and you won't reach out too far. And remember, the personal penalty can be very severe for a failure to thoroughly inspect the crucial parts of a ladder or scaffold before using it. The best trick of all is not to fall. To some extent, it always hurts to fall. It may be only your dignity, or it may be your head, your back, and your paycheck that get hurt. Stay alert to this hazard. Remember how falls happen. Try to make sure that no one falls because of what you do. No one, including yourself.
Scatter safety handbooks near the stairs and bam! He's a victim of an ironic injury. What do you think now? Did these health films warn about the dangers of the workplace or educate how to lower expectations, lie to employees, and file for workman's comp?